Leadership is an act, not a position.
A leader is someone who has a vision of an inspiring destination.
We say in Igbo enwereze, Igbo people don't have a king. To be a leader, you have to have integrity, you have to have vision, you have to care about others. You have to put the needs of those who you're leading ahead of your needs.
One of the issues about our country today are sometimes that we have leaders who do not understand the purpose of the time and the reason why they are the leaders.
Society expects men to be leaders.
You can be an effective leader, an effective prime minister, and at the same time have a baby, at the same time be a good mother.
Data shows that when you have women on boards, companies outperform their peers. As a young person in Nigeria, I was told I was the leader of tomorrow. Young people are leaders of today and tomorrow.
That's right.
This lie that we're being sold, that we have to wait our turn, is unacceptable in Nigeria today.
In today's world, the image of a leader is often associated with traits like assertiveness, dominance, and a command and control approach. Historically, these traits have been predominantly attributed to male leaders. However, it is essential to recognize that leadership is not defined by gender, and that women bring a unique and valuable perspective to leadership that challenges traditional norms. Welcome to the Leading Woman Show, Governance Series, brought to you by our sponsors, the National Endowment for Democracy and Luminate. My name is Abosede Jojagan, and today we will discuss the portrait of a leader. 15 countries today are led by women, with Italy and Honduras electing their first female presidents in 2022. Although the number of women in leadership positions of nations has increased in recent years, there have never been more than 17 women in these positions of power in any given single year, which is less than 10% of the number of men who have held these positions in any year. Now, joining us in the studio today as guests to discuss the portrait of a leader is Ndidi Okonkwo Nwuneli. She's the co-founder, executive chair of Sahel Consulting. She's also an expert on African agriculture and nutrition, a philanthropist, and social innovation, with over 25 years of international development experience. Our next guest is Oluwakomu, who currently serves an executive in residence at the Lagos Business School, and until August 2023 was the president and co-CEO of OPay Nigeria, one of Nigeria's largest fintech platforms with a unicorn valuation. Now, I'm sure that with this lineup of guests, you cannot wait to dive into the conversation. So we'll take a short break and we'll continue when we get back. Welcome back to the show. So, Ndidi and Olu, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We're talking about the portrait of a leader. And so, Ndidi, I want to start with you. Can you share with us, what is your portrait of a leader?
Thank you so much for having me. And as you know, I'm the founder of Leap Africa. So Leap is focused on leadership. And at Leap, our concept of leadership and a leader is someone who has a vision, who galvanizes others to implement that vision, focused on improving the lives of millions of people. And so the definition of effective leadership has to do with impact on the lives of millions of people. But galvanizing others means that you have to have that vision that inspires, that energizes, and that delivers impact. Ultimately, you judge the leader based on what they did. So leadership is an act, not a position.
Wow. Leadership is an act, not a position. Olu, what would you say? What is your portrait of a leader?
A leader is someone who has a vision of an inspiring destination that can rally people. And that means the vision of that destination is something bigger than now. It has to be something that everybody wants to wake up every morning to say, we are going somewhere. We are doing something bigger than ourselves. And that purpose, that means that purpose, sometimes very altruistic. I like what Nidhi said about impact. It's not about you, it's about society, it's about your organization, where you're taking people to. And that vision is pictorial. Everyone must be able to see and imagine that that destination is possible. The other thing is that people, it also has to be someone where that can inspire people to see what they will do on that journey. So the sense of contribution that I belong here on the journey to the purpose is as equally important as the vision itself. The last part of it, which we must say in the context of our country, it's that it has to be someone inclusive. When you are leading a team, a country where there are 50% of women, plurality in terms of gender, ethnicity, a leader must be someone inclusive that carries everybody along. And a strong sense of duty. Do you know the purpose of why you are the leader at this time? I think one of the issues about our country today are sometimes that we have leaders who do not understand the purpose of the time and the reason why they are the leaders. And when they are there, they are wondering what they need to do, or others are telling them what they need to do. And ultimately, they suboptimize the purpose of the office.
What I'm hearing you say there is almost like leadership is tenured. And if you actually look at it, it is tenured. But oftentimes when we approach leadership like it's something of ownership and that we're going to be there for a long time, then it defeats the purpose, because then we don't have tunnel vision about what we're trying to achieve. Nandidi, you founded Leap Africa and you said this is the whole idea. Can you share with us what has informed your definition of this ideal portrait that you painted to us? Like, what were those things that sort of let you know that impact is important? Like, where did that come from?
So there are two things. One is, as a young person in Nigeria, I was told I was the leader of tomorrow. I was told that when I was 10, when I was 20, when I was 30. And at some point, I recognized the people who were telling me were in positions of authority in when they were in their 20s, and they're still in those positions today. What does it hold for a young person in this country where the life expectancy is 57 and you're being told you're leader of tomorrow? When will that tomorrow come? So that frustration drove me to really delve into the topic of leadership. And I came up with the realization that young people are leaders of today and tomorrow.
That's right.
And that this lie that we're being sold, that we have to wait our turn, is unacceptable in Nigeria today. So that propelled me to try and understand leadership. The second notion that is a misrepresentation is that they're good and bad leaders. I disagree with that. They're leaders. Bad leaders are rulers. They're authoritarian, they're thieves, and we have to define and distinguish between leadership and ruling, between leadership and being a CEO. Not all CEOs are leaders. Not all fathers are leaders. Not all presidents are leaders. And recognizing that to be a leader, you have to have integrity, you have to have vision, you have to care about others. You have to put the needs of those who you're leading ahead of your needs. Defining that and redefining that for Nigeria and for Africa was the purpose that we set out to achieve at LEAP. Ensuring that young people realize they can be leaders in any context, and that in their sphere of influence, in their homes, in their schools, in their communities, they could rise up and find a problem to solve, improving the lives of others, having a vision, galvanizing others to make a difference. That's what makes them a leader.
That's so interesting. So you're in a position of authority, but it doesn't make you a leader. Olu, what informed or inspired this definition that you shared with us of a portrait of a leader?
There are things which I've learned on my journey over many years as a leader in business and in the larger community. I became a leader and area sales manager in the north. I was just, I came out of school, I was a salesperson for a short time in Benin City. 2 years after, so less than maybe 27 or thereabout, I was an area sales manager. I had to lead a diverse team, and maybe people who are also older. And over time, these are some of the learnings which I've refined. One of the things I must say is that on your journey as a leader, deep self-reflection is very important. Because as a young person, you are going to have opportunities to lead that like I had. But you will get better over time by your ability to self-reflect on how you are impacting. Have you made the business or the organization or the community or your club better than you left it? Did you impact people? Were people motivated? Those are some of it. So that sense of deep reflection and a sense of accountability. I think one of the issues with our nation today are leaders who are not accountable, who seem to want to pass the buck. When you take responsibility, so that sense of duty of the office linked to the purpose of the time, the inability of leaders to link the two are some of the bane of why we are where we are today. And it does not matter whether you are the president or whether you are the leader of a society, your church or your mosque. Those simple principles apply. Have you made a difference? Do you know the purpose of the time? Do you have a sense of duty and accountability? And can you be inclusive, carry people along? How do you create a sense of belonging? And the other one, of course, the atmosphere of the team, of the organization, of the country is a function of what is created by the leader. So one of the key things about leadership is how you create an atmosphere to inspire for people to perform. That's why people say, for example, in sports, sometimes a team is not performing, change the coach. And the team starts performing, it depends on how they are led.
So it's the atmosphere that was created by the leader.
Yes.
Now, Didi, societal expectations shapes our image of who a leader is. And I think that's what you were trying to reference when you were talking about a bad and good leader. I mean, in a country like Nigeria and on the continent of Africa, we have seen more rulership and dictatorship, right? And authoritarianism, right? And so we have defined that as bad leadership. So how does societal expectations shape our image of a leader?
Well, it's really interesting because oftentimes society expects men to be leaders. From early days, even in curriculum, our curriculum still says a man is the head of the household, a man is a leader, a woman is a helpmate. Our religious organizations also position that gender disparity where it says the men are supposed to lead and the women support. So that gender notion linked to leadership is one that society has put forward. But I have to say, if we dig down into our culture and our history as a people, that disparity wasn't there. In many of our cultures. I'm Igbo, and in Igbo culture, women were actually on the same level as men when it comes to leadership. We say in Igbo, Igbo people don't have a king. And in our community, the age grades, the community groups make decisions. But we borrowed a lot of bad habits from the West, not realizing that really colonization restructured some of our societal norms. And I think it's important we reconnect with them and embrace them. So this gender one is a big piece. Another big piece of societal norms in Nigeria is that if you're in leadership, you have to have the paraphernalia. You have to have the jeeps.
You can't be simple.
You can't be simple. You have to have somebody holding your bag. You have to be an oga. You have to have somebody holding your Bible as you come onto the pulpit. And I think that's a very dangerous, very, very dangerous misconception. If we look at some of the greatest leaders in the world, Mohammed, Gandhi, Mandela, Jesus Christ, they were simple. They were simple. They would sacrifice so that others would have. They didn't have entourages following them around. That is not a definition of a leader. And in our society, we've put a lot of pressure on people. People tell me, you still go to the market? Don't you have people to send? You're still carrying your bag. You're checking yourself into the airport. Where is your protocol? And I think that I have gone against that trend to show nobody carries my bag. I do my own thing. Even in my office, when I'm walking in, I carry my bag. Why should anybody carry my bag? You lead by example. And you set the tone in your organization by how you carry yourself and how you reflect yourself. And if you put yourself above others, you're not a servant leader. And we need to redefine that in Nigeria. So those two, for me, are the biggest misconceptions. And I feel sorry for people who tell me that they have to look a certain way, they have to act a certain way, because otherwise they won't be respected.
Right.
And I'll challenge that. I'll say, you're respected by what you do, by being authentic, by being consistent, by demonstrating integrity. That brings more respect than anything else.
Absolutely. But I think what you described there is, so if I'm emerging as a leader, then I feel like I have to take on this persona, because the image that people have of a leader is that, right? And that if I come as this simple, authentic person, then they're questioning if I even deserve to be in that position. So interesting. Olu,
Yeah.
how does societal expectations shape our image of who a leader is?
Bossa, you have asked a big question. Ultimately, a lot of leadership is a reflection of society and its values. So when we look at our leadership today and the decline of the quality of leadership, it's also a reflection of the decline of the value system in the larger society. And what that means is that followership in shaping leadership, society itself needs to ensure that it raises a higher value of expectation of leaders that this larger society itself subscribes to, such that those leaders are held accountable to those standards. When we elect leaders based on is our turn to chop, already the expectation of leadership at that point is go and steal for us. And if you steal and it's my person that steals, then it is not bad because it's our turn. So that leader is reflecting the value system of society. Now, what that means is that leadership must have a strong inner moral compass. When societal values are not reflecting a good value of leadership, a leader with a strong inner moral compass must be able to detach herself or himself from the poor values of society as we are seeing in Nigeria today, and hold a separate mirror to society to say this is what we need to be, and challenge society and pull them back along with alliances on a different destination, so that we do not use society as an excuse for the kind of poor value system that we are seeing in our leadership today. So a strong inner moral compass is very important for a leader, especially given the decline of value system in a country like ours that we are seeing today.
You know, you're saying that, and I'm wondering, is it a chicken and egg? So it's like, as the leader, hold myself to a higher standard so that people can see a different image, right? But then, if the people have come to accept this image, then I can just comply, right, and just remain at that standard. Now, Ndidi, before we go on a break, I want us to start to talk about, traditional stereotypes, right? And how, as you said, it has really affected our image of who a leader is and this portrait of a leader. And I guess the question is, how can we really challenge that? How do we push back on the fact that leadership is not male, for example?
It's a tough one, my dear. As you know, the research shows that right now, if we continue at our current trajectory, McKinsey said it's going to take about 140 years for women to reach gender parity in Africa. In fact, we've seen a regression
Absolutely.
in our ecosystem.
Yes.
And for me, it's very, very dangerous because you have a country with 50% men, 50% women. And there's actually been a backlash where what we're hearing is, why are women trying to take over? As opposed to, let's rise together.
Yes.
We're starting from such a low base.
Exactly.
And there's so much need in our society. People are hungry. People are not getting what they need. So it's urgent that we unleash the potential of women in our society. Boko Awashika likes to say, how can we fly a plane with one wing? How can a bird fly with one set of feathers? Yes. So for me, it is going to take a concerted effort to restructure our society. It's going to take an effort in the home,
Yes.
in the educational system with revamping curriculum, in our faith-based organizations. We're going to have to set quotas, and we're going to have to actually hold people accountable to create those spaces for women. I believe women can lead as their male counterparts, and that we even bring a new set of skills
Exactly.
to the table. And data shows that when you have women on boards, companies outperform their peers.
Yes.
When you have women in leadership roles, organizations thrive. So if it makes business sense, if it makes economic sense, what is the fear? And the biggest fear is, oh, there's not enough space for us at the top.
Scarcity
And yeah,
mindset.
it's a scarcity mindset. And if more women come in, then it means I have no position. And that is a falsehood, because there is space for everybody.
Yes.
And for me, I believe I grew up in a home with 5 children, 4 girls and 1 boy. So I was raised to believe I could achieve my highest potential. And I think the family institution is such a critical role, has a critical role to play. So it's all hands on deck to
Right.
really change the stereotypes.
Yeah.
We also need to support women who get up to those positions of authority so that they are seen as positive examples
Exactly.
and role models. There's a lot of pressure on them, and we need to support them. But we need to help our male folk also recognize that they have to be the biggest sponsors for women as they rise. So there's so much to say on this topic.
I know.
But for me, it's one that is a must-have. It's non-negotiable, and we must hold our current administration
Yes.
and corporate boards accountable for what they do. And I've worked very, very seriously on corporate boards. Every board I'm on, I ensure that we diversify the boards. I open the door for other women, and I hold organizations accountable for ensuring that we have this equity.
Perfect. Olu, how can we, and I really want you to speak from a male perspective, because, you know, as women, we're wondering, you know, the data is saying it. What is it that we are up against? Why don't we see this collective benefit that a different type of leader can bring as added value, you know, to the nation? How do we really challenge these stereotypes, you know, for our collective benefits?
I think we need to throw the stereotype more in the face of men. A lot of the biases are at a subconscious level. People are not even aware that they are doing it. For a lot of men, until you point out inclusivity and diversity to them, they're not even aware it's a problem. So we need to raise it. Because you are in a meeting, the stereotypes of the best contributor is the one with the loudest voice, which is likely to be maybe the tallest or the man. And a good leader, given what Didi has said, which is very true, 50% of talents in society are women, and it's evenly distributed. Talents are evenly distributed. Must be such that sometimes the loudest voice in the room, which may be a man, is not the guy making sense. The smartest contribution might be that thin, narrow voice of a lady who will make the most intelligent contribution. But it's important that a good leader who is inclusive draws it out. So you are in a meeting, only 2 people are talking, and you assume a decision has been taken. You have to open the space, and that's one of the things we need to do. One of the things I also think, looking at corporate life in business, it's a big problem. A lot of women, good talent start. Then there's a disappearance of good, talented women at the middle when they get married. They become 32 or 30 because of family and children. They have to drop out of their careers. And by the time we get to the board, naturally the selection process, when you are choosing from executive directors, is that 7 out of the 8 are men. So the odds that a woman will become a CEO at that level is very low, because the talented women have been filtered out at the middle level management because of family situation. So what this means is that we need to be more conscious of this problem. Create more flexibility for women in their careers. If women need to take a break because they are talented to take care of children, given what they need to, we must create a pathway for middle-level managers to come back without becoming a negative in their career. We don't have that largely in Nigeria today and in many organizations, and we are losing a lot of talents. One of my best decisions just looking at my journey, I interviewed when I was working for MTM way back. I interviewed we were group brand managers, and one of the ladies she was pregnant, heavily pregnant, and we're under pressure because we were about to launch, and like, oh, if you hire someone who's about to have a baby, you're going to not go have her for the next 3-4 months. But I could see she was very talented. But by grace, we took the decision to say we will do whatever we need to do to launch without her. She came back after her baby. She more than made up. We did not remember that she was not there when we launched. We could have missed her because of the perception to say, oh, she will not be available because of family. Those are the kind of flexibilities. A crèche needs to be available close to the boardroom so that a marketing director can make contributions, and if she needs to step out of the boardroom to feed her baby, she must be able to do that. I think one of the most powerful images of this challenge, this thing we need to see, is the Prime Minister of New Zealand, former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. She went to the United Nations General Assembly. She took her baby with her. That is an image for the world. Your presidents and prime ministers are not supposed to have babies with them. But she challenged the steward. She was a lady, a young woman prime minister who had a baby. She took it with her. She is telling the world, you can be an effective leader, an effective prime minister, and at the same time have a baby mother. At the same time, be a good mother. Yes. Those are the images we need to push and challenge the stereotype and she's been one of the best young leaders that we've had. Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand.
I mean, I appreciate you bringing that example because she has reshaped in some way our portrait of a leader. Well, this is a good time to take a break, and we'll continue this interesting conversation when we get back. Welcome back to the show. We're still talking about portrait of a leader, and I'm sure you've been enjoying the conversation so far. So let's start to dive into qualities of a leader. What are some of those qualities that makes anyone a leader, regardless of what sector, what space? And Didi, I think you started speaking to it earlier. And as you talk about it, I think one of the things we should talk about is, how are people supposed to then almost get these qualities? And I guess that's what inspires that question of, are leaders born or are they made? So what would you say are the qualities or experiences that an effective leader should have?
Thank you so much. I would say definitely leaders are made.
Not born.
There's no DNA that's passed down from generation to generation. And what are those qualities? The first one is a vision. You have to be visionary. You have to be a problem solver. There has to be something that makes you angry in your society, and you have to have an idea of how to solve that problem. The second is that you have to be authentic. And authenticity is this is who you are, and you're consistent in who you are. And embedded in authenticity is integrity. You have to speak the truth. People have to trust you. If they don't trust you, they won't follow you. And that trust is so important, and right now, so fragile, right? And number 4 is really humility. And I think humility is critical because a leader has to learn and unlearn and keep learning. Nobody's born with that knowledge, knowing everything.
Right.
And humility to say, I was wrong, I made a mistake. Humility to be vulnerable and to say, you know what, I didn't get it right all the time. I made this issue and there's an error here. And for me, that's critical. And then the 5th one, if I could, is really tenacity. Change is not easy. Impact is not easy. You have to stay the course. And that tenacity, that resilience, that fighting spirit to keep pushing until your vision is achieved is so important. So those would be my top 5. I have about 10 qualities, but I have to pick 5, and those would be my top 5.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, we're building a toolkit, so this is great. Olu, what would you add to this toolkit on qualities and experiences?
So I will amplify purpose. You can't be an inspiring leader, a transformational leader, unless you're tied to a big purpose. There are transactional leaders. People will forget them as soon as they leave office because their own is do this, you get this, and After some time, nobody remembers them. But people that make enduring impact are people who are led by purpose, something altruistic, something, it might also be excellence. Let's make a difference. Let's show that our country will be a difference in Africa. Those are the, so that's very important. But other things which I would like to emphasize, add to it is courage. Leadership, there are times when you are with people, but there are also times when you are alone. And one of the examples I will give has to come from religion. Apologies, but everyone can relate to it. When the Lord Jesus Christ was going to the cross, what he did was he said to the apostles, "Stay here while I go to the mountain to pray." When he got there, he knew the weight of what was coming. And his prayer was, "Oh Lord, take this burden away from me." There are many times in leadership when you'll be alone, when you cannot share the burden of the weight of your office, your people, because when they know, they will run away. And that courage to lead when it is dark, to hold on to the vision, to inspire people, even when it is tough. Those are some of the things that are important. So leadership is also a lot about courage. And if you are truly a leader, your courage will be tested. If you are truly transformational, your courage will be tested. Your value will be tested. Will you be able to live up to it with courage? Those are some of the things which I will add to all the things that I already did and which I agree with.
So, Ndidi, can you share your leadership journey? And, as I said, maybe tell us where you picked up some of these qualities that you describe that a leader should have. Because I know, the young people here, many people are going to watch, and a lot of people believe that they are not the leaders, that others are the leaders. So what has been your journey, and what did you pick up along the way that sort of has shaped, your portrait of a leader and who you have become as a leader as well?
Yes, I was born and raised in Enugu, Nigeria, and my parents were my first role models when it comes to leadership because they were both university professors who moved back to Nigeria to teach and to serve. So from them, I learned service. And I think they exposed us to opportunities to serve from a young age. During our vacations, we used to go to the orphanages and to the old people's homes to perform, to give. And they gave through their work and through their life. And so I think home was the earliest foundation. And not everybody has that. But we were encouraged to use our voice. We were never silenced as children. And we're also encouraged to find our passion and our vision. And early on, my favorite subject in school was agriculture in high school. And my mother encouraged it. She encouraged me to have a farm in the back of my house. She encouraged me to have my first transaction. I took avocados to the market to sell. So having that type of early exposure to the opportunities, but also that you have value. I used to work in my neighbor's house watering their garden from when I was 12 to get pocket money. So even the value of hard work, those principles and through my childhood were pivotal. From there, I obviously went to university, worked hard, got to some of the best schools in the world, and then started in corporate America. And then I learned the importance of knowledge, the importance of servant leadership by observing mentors who prioritize others ahead of themselves. I had early mentors who picked me and said, "We're going to help you succeed." And then the Black Americans in McKinsey really created a network where they supported each other and helped each other shine. And having that example of sacrifice from what African Americans have done to overcome many of the obstacles in America was pivotal to my growth as well. But I would say, really, the most fundamental aspect of my journey has been my faith in God. I'm a very strong Christian, and I remember my ambitions as a young person was to become a global CEO of one of the leading multinationals in the world in consumer goods. And I would be on a private plane with my 2 kids, flying from country to country. And God essentially arrested me and said, "Ndidi, if you have this passion and vision to change the corporate America, you can channel it to changing your home country." And so the master strategist that God is orchestrated that I got an offer to work in Nigeria for the summer of 1995. I never applied. I never interviewed. I got an offer. a DHL package saying, want you to come here. And I worked with ARM as a summer intern. And I encourage all the young people, get internships. But this was divinely orchestrated because I never applied. I never would have come back to Nigeria. Many people were Japan in
At the
1999.
time.
It was even worse than it is now. There was a commercial called Andrew, Nigeria is your country. I don't know if any of you are old enough to know about Andrew, who was checking out.
Yeah.
Checking out. You remember that commercial?
I've heard about
Anyway,
it.
I'm older than you. So it was really interesting. Nobody wanted to come back to Nigeria. And I had said, I'm never coming back to Nigeria. And then I got that offer, worked for ARM. It was 7 months old, had the best time of my life, and realized that my calling was here.
Wow.
And that redefined me. But seeing ARM, they were young people, moved back from England. They had meetings every day at 7 a.m. The office was full. Their passion, their desire to change this country was infectious. And seeing that opportunity to work with others, to transform my country and my continent could not leave me. So even when I went back to McKinsey and Harvard, I always thought, I have to come home. And so I think for me, it's a series of strategic interventions, God-given opportunities, and the desire to find my passion early. And I always tell young people, don't follow the trend. Many people say agriculture, food. Are you a farmer? I don't want to be a poor person. Not realizing that we are naturally endowed for agricultural excellence and that we can feed ourselves and the world. So through Sahel, through African food change makers, through ACE Foods, we're making a difference. We're changing lives and we're creating wealth for our people. Amazing. And that has been transformational for me. So I really give all glory to God.
Wow, amazing, amazing. I mean, just that small seed, that grows into all the things you said, Leap Africa, many organizations, many people, the impact that they're all having. Amazing. Well done. Olu, share with us your journey and what some of those qualities. I know you started talking about it. And, like Ndidi said, not everybody has that home structure. For some people, it's an educational system. For some people, it's their religious institutions. What was your story and what were the qualities that you picked from along
Thank
the
you,
way?
Bosse. I think I've been lucky to have all the three. Growing up in a family, a community, and an education system. In a family where those proverbs, and I will translate, Roti ọmọ ẹni tí ìwọ ń ṣe. That is, remember the son or the daughter of who you are. That tells you something about character and reputation. It will live with you because it was ingrained from the family. Don't spoil our good name. Those are some of the things that are missing now. Do you have honor? When you misbehaved, those people who misbehave, they don't even know. They're going to walk free because they don't know what reputation name means. Then the things we learned in the community in terms of what are the value system of the larger society that everyone holds your family accountable for. Then growing up in a Baptist church, some of the things which you learn growing from nursery down to royal ambassadors and all the things that you learned, those are some of the things. Then in school, the values of the rhymes, the things you are taught, iṣẹ́ lòògùn ìṣẹ́, hard work, má fowórọ̀ ṣiṣẹ́ ọ̀rẹ́ mi, which means don't play with your early mornings in the early part of your life. It is knowledge and hard work that promotes you. Those are the things which we learn in school growing up. So the combination of family, community, and education shaped the values that we had. And you carry that along with you into your journey. And you can always, it becomes a mirror for which you hold yourself. And the other part of it is, when the community growing up then, when my dad would send me to buy newspaper and will discuss politics with me, the heroes of the community were people who were statesmen, who had a vision for common good. So at that time, there were people who were stoned as politicians. And so those are the kind of values, the heroes who are the kind of heroes of the time. They represent common good. So leadership means people who do not think about themselves, people who have common good for society. How do we create inclusivity? How do we get a lot of, and those were the generations of A lot of people went to school. Social mobility. It does not matter where you started. You can get a good education. You can go to a good secondary school. You can go to a good university. Like I had, went to Ife. Quality was great. I'm here today. Now, the path for the children of the poor has become constrained because the opportunities are now more. So those are some of the things which shaped us. And we need to reconnect back to those good values of family, community, and education system that is not just about knowledge, but also promotes character and good ethics.
And good values. So, Didi, we're beginning to wrap this conversation up, and Nigeria really struggles with having I love the way you say it, and I pray that people understand it around leadership and rulership. And, you said a leader who thinks about common good. How can we, and you said something earlier about people are suffering, right? How can we start to really reshape our reality, not just our image of a leader in Nigeria, but that reality of who an ideal portrait of a leader should be? A servant leader, one who has humility, one who has the interest of the people over theirs. How do we get there? What does this look like? And what role can women play in this journey?
Thank you so much. One of the games we used to play at LEAP was Guess the Leader. So we'd ask people to put the names of all the people they think are leaders, and then we'll ask the question, what have they done? Not what position did they hold, but what have they done? And most times we start off with a list, and then by the time the young people are done, everybody's crossed off. And they replace it with Mama Ajayi, she paid school fees for 10 people. Mama Teresa, she sweeps the church every day. Mama, do you understand? It changes. And I think what you're doing is a great, fantastic start. Because we need to show alternative portraits of those women in our society who are already leading.
Right.
But they're unsung heroes.
Yes.
They're not recognized. They're not supported. And they're not encouraged. So the first is, let's use media to change that image. Those women are the backbone of most of our societies.
That's right.
They are carrying children and generations. There's a matron in a hospital in Lagos who has worked there for 30 years, right? How many children has she delivered? Who knows her name and who has given her an award for what she has done and changed that stereotype? So I think we really, really have to use media, social media, popular media and traditional media to change those stereotypes and those narratives. The second thing we need to do is to revamp our curriculum. The curriculum that says men go to work, women stay at home, undervalues even the homemaker who has worked from morning till night. I know I couldn't stay at home and clean and cook, and it's hard work.
It is.
Me, I prefer to use my
brain.
physical head instead of my, that is valuable work.
Yes.
But by degrading it and also limiting women, we need to change our curriculum. I hope you will take that on, and others who are in this room have to take it on. Because our curriculum needs to be updated, and a gender lens has to be used throughout the curriculum to ensure equity and to remove the bias and the languages in there. And then we need to change our policies. There are still policies that hold back women in this country. From policies around work, our labor laws that say that women cannot work overnight in factories, but yes, they can work overnight in hotels and hospitals. That is a sham. Let women make a choice. And that limits women moving up in corporate Nigeria, especially in manufacturing, the sector where I spend a lot of my time in food, because factories work 24 hours and women are not on the factory floor at night, and they can't become production managers, they can't become CEOs. So policies have to be changed. Policies around policing, policies around issues such as sexual harassment, creating safe spaces for women. We still have unsafe spaces for women in Nigeria, which limits women in the workplace. So many women are leaving corporate Nigeria because of unsafe spaces. And if we don't create those safe spaces in the political landscape and in the corporate landscape, even in NGOs, we're going to continue to have women exiting. And then the final one is faith-based organizations. I think this is huge. Of the leading pastors and imams in Nigeria, how many of them have women in leadership roles? Can we start changing that face to say women are excellent preachers, they're excellent teachers. They also can be great counselors. And we need equity in the faith-based organizations because we need both men and women to rise. And all society needs to accept and support women as they rise. And guess what, men? If women rise, it lessens the load and pressure on you.
men.
You know, in Igbo, we say, "Osodieme," I follow my husband to do, because my husband also has to sleep at night. If he's worried about how to feed and pay school fees and everything is on his head. We see men dying at a higher rate in Nigeria from
suicide.
stroke, from suicide, from high blood pressure. Let women rise with you. Your home will be
Lighten the
secure.
load.
Lighten the load. And together we can create the Nigeria of our dreams. And it's important and it's urgent.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Olu, I mean, how do we get there? Why don't the critical mass see this? And I also want you to speak to this idea that good people cannot get into politics and governance, which actually is what's shaping society ultimately through laws and policies.
That's a big question. Someone said that in the US, for example, their smartest people, or in the UK, their smartest people is politics, business, civil society. This way, some of our weakest people are those who do politics. Sometimes they couldn't get a job, they go and queue. They're the ones who contest. We got to fix that, because the way our politics is denying us of our best talents. People like Bill Clinton were rose scholars. People like David Cameron studied PPE. People like the guy was in opposition to him in the Labour Party side in Britain. He had a first class. Those are the quality of people that you have in politics in those societies. And one of the things we have to fix is the phenomenon of institutional capture, the capture of our democracy and institutions by narrow vested interest. If our democracy must work, the space has to be opened up such that the institutions of our democracy, the political party, must reflect the plurality of our society. Political parties in politics are supposed to have tendencies that contend, and during the elections of the party primaries, those tendencies are the ones that contend, which means that, what that means that the feeling of society and its issues percolates up, down to the elected representative, down to government. But as it is today, political parties are captured by vested interests. The electoral system, or sometimes the umpire, is captured. And good people, and of course their security and thuggery. So good people feel, maybe I don't belong, but we can't give up. We need to now raise a stronger civil society and the press, independent of existing state machineries, that will put pressure on our state unions to reform for good. Those are some of the things we have to do. In the next election, we must make sure that people have a fair sense that their voices have been heard and that votes count. And if they must go to court, that they will feel that they will get justice and remedy in the courts, and that the courts and the judiciary themselves are not being captured by the same vested interests that have captured our democracy. Like someone said, the way things are going, if you are not careful, 2027 may end up being worse than where we are coming from. And we all have a duty as patriots to continue. It's not about party. It's to create a much more open space for women, for diversity in our politics.
Absolutely. Didi, I'm going to give you the final word on this. Young people here in our audience and who are going to watch this, saying, we've heard you. We want to be that leader. We want to do. We want to make impact. We want to galvanize people. What would you say to them? What should they do?
I would say first, don't give up on Nigeria. This is our country, and we need all hands on deck to fix it. This is your country, and you need to take ownership of it and really believe that you can fix it starting from your sphere of influence. So I ask young people, what makes you angry about your society and what can you do about it? How can you partner with others to fix that thing that makes you angry? How can you use this time when you're young, where you have energy, you have time, you have talent? How can you channel all of that creativity into finding solutions to the problems that confront you? We as adults are here to help.
Yeah.
But we recognize that our time is going
Yes.
and this country belongs to you. You are leaders of today and tomorrow. So use your time wisely. Get off social media, get off gaming, and spend time learning and growing, volunteering, supporting causes that matter, leverage your skills, and find your passion. And I found my passion by trying different things to find which one comes naturally to me, which one gives me joy. Do the same. What gives you joy? What gives you energy? What are you willing to do for free? Spend time doing that. And trust me, if you excel, it doesn't matter whether your father is a professor, a farmer, whatever. It doesn't matter who your mother is. You can create the future you desire, even in Nigeria. So seize the day, and I look forward to celebrating your success. So young people,
Fantastic.
go out and do it.
On that note, we're going to move into our gaming segment, Misrepresented. We'll continue when we get back. And now it's time for Misrepresented, our gaming segment. Today, we will dive into history to reminisce on historic female leaders. Our participants will give us answers to our who was questions. Representing Team A and B are Deborah and Ebuka. Question 1. Who was the first female scientist in Nigeria? And I have options for you. A, Grace Oladuni Saleh, Grace Oladuni Taylor, or Grace Oladuni Matthew. Team A?
B.
B.
Grace
Grace
Oladuni
Oladuni
Taylor.
Taylor. Team B, what would you say?
Grace Oladili Matthew.
So you are saying C. The answer is B. Give her a round of applause. Grace Oladuni Taylor. Well done. Question 2. Who was the first female on the ballot in Nigeria? The options. Dame Virginia Ngozi Johnson, Dame Virginia Ngozi Iweala, or Dame Virginia Ngozi Etiaba.
C.
C. What would you say?
Same.
C. C is the correct answer. Give them a round of applause. Now, on this note, we would like to thank our distinguished guests for an enlightening and enriching conversation on today's episode. We'd like to say thank you to Olua Komu and Ndidi Onwuneli. We appreciate you for being a part of this episode. And of course, to our live audience, you have been simply amazing. To our viewers watching today's episode, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us across all social media platforms at Will and Global, like, share, and leave us a comment. And of course, before we leave, remember that women's leadership can change everything, everywhere. See you next week.